Guys, this is Edna with Square Eye Photography, and today I'm going to teach you how to Lightroom a quinceañera. It really doesn't matter what shoot you shot. I'm going to teach you basic Lightroom. I'm going to teach you the develop module and how to use the basic features on it. I'm going to teach you a little bit of basic posing, how to shoot in harsh lighting, how to do some group sittings and how to pose people correctly, and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, along with settings and things like that. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is I think I'm using Lightroom 4.1. It really doesn't matter. The basics are the same, and they've been the same for a while. Now, every time you're about to Lightroom a new session, whether it's wedding, quinceañera, any kind of session at all, you want to save the catalog, and I'm going to show you what I mean here. This is my pictures folder. This is where I have all of my photo shoots, recent photo shoots. And this is a photo shoot that I just did on 7/13/18 for Lauren and Tyrone engagement. And this is the Lightroom catalog here. So I export the images to this file here, RCC, rotated and color corrected. But when I save and back up this file, I don't save this folder. So it's going to save me all of this information here. So this file folder here is 3.95 gigabytes, and my original file with my original JPEGs is 2.63 gigabytes. So you don't want to save this file with exported images. You just want to save your originals, your retouched images, and your catalog. Okay, so I'm going to close this and leave it off here to the edge, and we're going to go to File, New Catalog, and we're going to go to the file where I shot this quinceañera, which is here, Valentina Quinceañera. I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to name this Valentina Lightroom. You can name it catalog, you can name it whatever you want. We're going to save that. It's sort of going to look like it's closing Lightroom, and it's kind of going to open it back up. And I'm going to do this in sections, guys, because I did the Tyrone and Lauren engagement entire Lightroom also, and 3/4 of the way through there was no sound. So I'm going to do this in little snippets and sections so that I can be double checking the sound. Now we're going to go to File, Import Photos and Video. And we are going to import the quinceañera photographs. So we're going to go here to My Pictures, find the file. It might be here under C, and you might need to go to Users and Edna or Public, and we might need to go to My Pictures, and then you can right click on My Pictures and you can dock the folder there. And then we're going to go to Valentina Quinceañera. We're going to go to Originals, because that's how I have these, under an Originals folder. And we're going to import all of these images right here that are coming up, all of these photos. And I'm going to teach you how to nail your color, okay, guys? This is super important. So I'm going to press import here, and this is going to go. All right, guys, it took about 4 minutes to load all of these images because I have a crappy, slow computer. And it's about 1,700 images that I shot. If you want to see your thumbnails bigger, you can press Control or Command on Mac. And just use your roller ball on your mouse, and you can make them bigger or smaller. But we're not going to use the library mode here. We're going to use the develop mode. And you see your images down here at the bottom. These are all of your thumbnails, and these are your images big up here. And we're going to be using this module right here on the right hand side, and this is the image as I started off the day. Now I'm going to teach you how to use this gray card. You're going to love it. I'm going to put a link at the bottom of this description so that you can see how to do this, so you can nail your color in camera, and if it's not in camera, then you can nail it in Lightroom. So here are the images as I shot them. They look pretty good. And this is the way you use the gray card. You click here on this little white balance selector tool, and you click anywhere on this gray card. And then the settings are already here. The temperature is going to be -2 here and +8 here. And then you just press Shift. You click on the following images and you press Sync. Do I want to sync all these settings? Yeah, sure. And we're going to press synchronize. So here is the image before and after. So you can see I can reset the image And you guys can see what it looks like before and after. So it's very little difference because I pretty much already had the image looking really great before. So there's the before and the after. And now I can just go in and delete this. So we'll remove it. And this is how I set my color for these images. So the first thing that you do is you want to take a photograph. Because this is a small card, it doesn't need to be in focus. The gray card needs to be as close as possible, even blurry, doesn't matter, to your whole sensor. So try to just get it up close to your camera and shoot this, and then go into your camera settings and go into custom white balance. And on the top where you have the little like cloud and the little lightning bolt and the little fluorescent bulb, there's a setting for custom white balance, and it'll ask you, do you want this picture, which is your last photograph, to be setting the settings for your custom white balance? And you press yes. So now I can delete these two images, and this is how my settings came out, which is pretty much how it looked in real life. Now if you click on this, it changed a little bit. It gave me a little bit of a different setting. So you can just go in and copy and select all of these images that I shot under the same lighting condition and press synchronize. And it'll give you perfect gray card white balance for all of the image. Now we can go in and tweak the images a little bit more. We can add brightness and darkness and all of that. So that's all done. I'm going to delete these. And I want these a little bit brighter, just like that. And you can cool them down or brighten them up however you want. Now this was probably the right setting for this particular shoot. It was warm and everything looked warm. There's warm walls, so we're gonna keep that. I'm gonna sync these, and that's how you do it, guys. If you do your first picture, like let's say this one right here, I want to bring up the shadows a little bit. I want to brighten it up, maybe save a little bit of the highlights because it's very light flowers. You're going to bring up the highlights here, and then you grab the rest of the images that you want with the same settings. You press shift and you select the end image, and it'll highlight all of those images, and then you just press sync right down here and synchronize all of them, and that looks pretty nice. And let's say you're like, well, I want this one a little darker. Just go in and drop the exposure down just a tad, and then do the same thing. Press shift, grab that last image, press sync, and it works the same as anything in Windows or whatever. Like you can press control, right? Like I want this image and this image and this image and this image, or you can just click on another image to deselect, or press shift to grab the last image, and all of them will be selected. So these all look great to me. I'm going to brighten this one up just a little bit, and I'm going to brighten up this one just a little bit. And I normally select like the next image in a set of series because I can always tweak this one a little bit more if I have to. So I'm going to brighten up this one just a tad. I'm going to add a little bit of pink, a little bit of magenta to this because the bottle was a little bit pink, just to pop it a little bit more. And now we'll go to this one, and I don't want any more pink on that one, but I don't want it green either, right? So let's find that perfect color. And I'm going to add a little bit of clarity to this because we're shooting with a macro lens here. So most of the details that I shoot with a 100 millimeter macro Canon lens. So you'll see here it says 100 millimeter f2.8 macro image stabilization USM. I'm shooting at 1/60th of a second, which personally I think you should shoot at about 250 and up. I'm shooting at 4.0. There's very little detail when you're shooting at 4.0. You should shoot it at about 5.6, but my ISO is already at 2500. I could have kicked it up to 3200 and gotten a little bit more f-stop on this. So these are all the details from the day of. Let's see if I darkened it or brightened it. I'm going to brighten this one up just a little bit more. Just like that. And I'm going to save the highlights a little bit because there's so much white here. You can save your highlights. You see how I do that? You just go into highlights and you click to your left and drag and drop it where you want it. And that looks really good. When you have something that has a lot of light things in it or brightness, then that's a good thing to do. And this is just a little collage of all the stuff that I shot. Again, this is blown out in the back, so we're going to save some highlights there. I didn't focus back here, so it doesn't really matter, but go a little brighter. And let's see, add a little bit of blue. No, I don't like it. Add a little bit of vibrancy. I love vibrancy. So we can add a little vibrancy, a tad bit of clarity, and copy all of those. And I always copy onto the next photo, just because it's probably going to be pretty similar. And these I shot darker, so we're going to brighten it up a little bit more. Just like that. And then again, grab that and sync all the way across. And here I shot the earrings. The exposure should be a little less. Press shift, click on it. Everything looks good. These look beautiful exactly the way that they are. I don't normally shoot the dress this way, but it was already set up that way. I like to shoot it in different areas, so I love this shot here. Now here I didn't use a gray card, so the walls were really warm, but here you can see there's some white. So you can click on the little eyedropper and click on an area that has the white on it. Now this would be a very bright white, but I don't like it overly white. I do want a little bit of that warmth to be retained. So I'm going to drop that down a little bit. It just depends on your shooting style, right? So I'm going to drop it down a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit more magenta because this dress is pink. So add a little bit there. And I think I like that right there. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. And I like that. So look at the before, and the before is up here, and then the after here. So I'm going to click on sync, and we'll sync all of those. And then I shot that here in the kitchen. They got dressed and ready at their home. So I'm going to add a little bit of magenta to this one too, because the dress is pink. And that's our main concern here. And a little bit of warmth, not too much, a little bit of contrast, maybe some vibrancy. And you guys can play with it as much as you want and see what you like. I shoot JPEG and I shoot really flat. So I always have to add some more contrast or some more black. And that looks pretty good here. Oh, I love all this. Look at this dress. This was a high-end quinceañera. It was really beautiful. So we're going to press sync all the way through and all the way across. That looks beautiful. Okay. So now I went back to shooting her. And I don't have a gray card here. So now by eye, I'm going to just clean up the color here. I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. I like my images a little bit bright. We can add a little bit of, we can bring up the shadows a little bit. We can also save some highlights, but I don't think we have to. I'm going to add a little bit of blue because it's a little on the warm side. So you just slowly bring that blue over here on temperature, because yellow is the opposite, warm, right? Blue is the opposite of that, so we're adding blue. So you can go all the way over and then just start bringing it back until it looks good. So I think that looks good. And you can do the same thing with the red and the warmth, and just sort of play with it until you find a area that looks good. I think that looks good. Now you can see here the before and the after. And these little lash shots I like to shoot with my 50mm. Here I'm at 125 at 2.8. I'll even go down to 1.8 or 2.0. And you can see that it's mostly her lashes are in focus and everything else falls out of focus. So to zoom in and out on Lightroom, guys, you press Control and plus and minus, okay? Plus and minus on your keyboard. All right, so we're going to copy all of those and bring them all the way over everything that has that lighting in it, which is all the way to here. And once I have my settings down on my camera, I pretty much leave it. I don't mess with it very much, but you see here I made everything a little bit brighter So I'm going to drop the exposure just a tad. Right there. And here when I pulled out, I'm going to darken it up a little bit more, and I'm going to warm it up just a tad. A little tiny bit. I'll go back and sync all of them again. There we go. That looks a little bit better to me. I can even brighten these up a little bit more. And I just go like this, little by little, adjusting all the different images as I'm going. And I'm shooting details and trying to get everything just sort of that's around. There you go. And I'm stacking. You see how I'm using flowers that are there, and I'm just stacking. And you can use stacking to remove, like if there's something that doesn't look good in this corner, you can use flowers and things to just sort of remove those annoying things that are around. Alright guys, and you see here in this photo I added the gray card, so I can click on the gray card to get the right color. There's very little difference because I pretty much nail my images already, but if this was like super yellow and I clicked on the gray right here, then you could see that immediately it went to a nice neutral tone. So that's what I do. I just click on this little gray card and it gives me the right color tone. And I can just grab that color tone and go all the way to the end and sync it so that they're all the same nice clean color. So this is where she was getting dressed and ready. And normally I suggest to my clients that they get dressed and ready in a hotel because bedrooms really are not conducive to great photography. So here we were all squished. The videographer is actually over to my right here in this photograph, and you can see that the bed is taking up a majority of the room. But the nice thing is I'll be able to teach you how to use this gradient filter right now. So the window is coming in and it's lighting her dress, but everything up above and behind is darker. So I'm going to teach you how to use this graduated filter, and I'm going to teach you how to bring in brightness to the rest of the image. So here, this is a perfect image to use this. I'm going to add a little bit of exposure. Now you can see mom here is pretty dark. Now we can just brighten up the shadows a little bit and bring her up, or we can go up here to this graduated filter and click from the edge up this way. Now this area is the area that's being graduated, and this area is sort of like where this area is it's the area where whatever settings you have is going to show, and this area from here to here is the graduated part. So if you want this area to be smaller, just click on it, like zoom in so there's only a little section, and then just drag it over, right? You see that? See how this area is graduated now from here to here? So now we can brighten it up, warm it up, whatever we want to do. Like I want it warm so it matches the rest of the photograph, and I want to brighten it up, but not too much that it looks ridiculous. I want to bring up the shadows. I want to save the highlights, and I can bring it up just a little bit more, just like that. So that makes a huge difference already, and you can actually make a couple of these. So I can bring another one in, click on it, and bring one in on this side and brighten up this wall because it looks weird that one wall is brighter and the other one is not. Like you can do whatever you want to do with it. Like I can brighten up this wall just like that so it matches the other wall, and that is how you use a graduated filter. It's really awesome for skies also. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to sync all of those. As a matter of fact, I'm removing this because I don't like it, so I'm just going to leave that like that, and I'm going to sync all of those. Now you can see that mom is also bright and daughter is bright, just like that. And you can move this around from image to image, so like that. And you can darken it or lighten it, whatever you want to do. So I can darken this one just a tad so it looks a little bit more natural. And in Photoshop, you don't have to worry about this. Like you can go in and finitely tune every single thing and use a mask and all this thing. But because these are the images that I give my client, all high resolution images. You know, I want them to be sure that they can have an image that they are going to like. Like mom might want to print this, so there we go. And on this one, there's not too much of a difference, so I'm just going to bring up the shadows a little bit. And let's say I want to go back and use it again for this image. I can just go back here and press Shift Control C or Control C, copy all of those, and bring that to this image. Press Control Shift Control V, and there it is. Mom is bright up again. And again, I can just darken it. I can go here again to graduated filter, click on the graduated filter, and it comes up. The panel comes up again. And if I want to darken it up a little bit, I can darken it up just a tad. I'm going to copy those two. So that's that. Those are the getting ready photos. And then again, I did my little gray card here. I'm going to delete this one. And don't forget to go back and delete all those images that have gray cards, guys. So sometimes I forget to do that, and we've got to make sure we delete all of those. So back to getting dressed and ready. So here I was using a 50 millimeter. Oh no, I'm using the wide angle because there was very little room in that room. So now I took her back downstairs, found a big, open, beautiful window to shoot in front of so that we have some beautiful light coming in. And again, I'm going to go right here to my white balance selector. I'm going to click on this gray card. There's very little difference because the color already looks really good. And I'm just going to sync it over to the next one. And I'm going to delete that gray card image. Delete. Press delete on your keyboard. And I don't ever delete from disk. I just remove. And here I am going to brighten up the image. I want it nice and bright. I'm going to add a little bit of extra magenta because I want more pop in that dress. And I'm going to add some vibrancy. And vibrancy doesn't normally affect skin tones. It just normally affects, you know, reds and blues and vibrant, you know, colors that can use more vibrancy. And I'm going to copy all of those and I'm going to sync. So here what I do is I asked the girl, this could be a bride, to just sort of look out the window so her nose is pointing towards the light, just like this. Like look out the window and put on your earrings, and then even if she does turn her body, then I just still shoot from this direction where the light is coming in from, and asking her to smile, look at the camera, and on and on. So that's how I shoot those. And now I'm shooting a couple of formal photographs in her house. So here is a shot that I do where I have her sort of sit on her hip, not really right down on her butt, but on her hip. I'm shooting at a 50 millimeter with the 50 millimeter at 250 at 2.5. I like to shoot pretty high shutter speed because I'm a little shaky. And I'll shoot like 2 of every image because the possibility is there that I'll shake and not get something nailed in focus. So that's always a possibility. So if somebody chooses an image for an album and it's a little bit soft, I can always go in and change that. So we're copying these settings here because this is our gray card settings, and pasting them, Shift Control V, Shift Control C, Shift Control V. And I don't need that extra magenta here. So I'm going to brighten this up just a tad. I'm going to save my highlights, and I'm going to bring up a little bit of the shadow. And I feel like I need a little bit of blue in this image. It's a little bit too warm. Brighten it up. And each individual image has its own thing that I like. So you can always go in, even if you're using a gray card, you can always go in and play with the images and add your own thing to it. So I could have changed something small and it would have changed everything about the color. So I'm going to brighten these up a little bit. So these are the images that I shot of her. I'm relaxing her, telling her to just relax. Now I'm having her lean her head back and close her eyes. And just like that. Now this image here, you can see that I missed focus, right? But the next image, I got the focus. So this one I would delete because I don't want my client to choose an image that I don't like. So I would just remove that image right off the bat. But this one is gorgeous. I love that. And this one's a little bit too bright, so I can darken it up a little bit, or I can just, you know, bring up the highlights so that I don't get too much of that highlight in there, and it evens out a little bit more with the rest of the image. So I'm gonna sync those so I can hold on to those highlights. And I like to do these super dramatic shots with the eyelashes in focus and everything else out of focus. And this was an accidental shot. Oh no, I didn't. This is a shot of the crown. So this is what sets a professional photographer aside, guys. And I always tell people, like, don't shoot with like a 24 to 70 millimeter lens, because every point and shoot in the world is like 24 to 70, right? Everyone is going to be shooting a 4.5, 5.0, 5.6. So you want to make your images as dramatic as possible and set yourself apart from other point and shoot photographers or other people that are not professional photographers. If a person came in with their cell phone, they wouldn't be able to get this photograph, because this has very shallow depth of field with really nice sharp lashes, and you can't shoot that with a point and shoot camera or with a cell phone. With so many people having really great cell phone cameras, you really need to set yourself apart. I shoot very wide angle, very shallow depth of field, a lot of 70 to 200 with those really shallow depth of fields. And that's what sets professionals apart from anybody with a nice camera, okay? Of course, posing, lighting, and knowing all of this stuff, but this is what's important, these very dramatic shots. So here I have her just standing by the chair, and I love this photo. I'm just going to bring in the highlights a little bit, add a little bit of contrast, add a little bit of pink, more magenta to this image. And this looks a little better. Brighten it up a little, add a little vibrancy, add a little contrast, but I don't like my highlights to get too crazy, so I'm going to bring up the highlights a little bit. And I'm going to copy all of that. And I'm just around the house taking photos. So I do these super shallow depth of field, really close-up photos, and then I go to wide angle, full body shots. So I like to really mix it up. Shallow, really close, you know, really tall. Then I go to like a half body shot, right? So it'll make a nice 5x7. And then I want some stacking and some different looks and views. So here, I love this photo, just down a little hallway in her house. The light, there's an open window on this right side, and I have her turn her nose towards the light. I'm going to brighten this image up quite a bit, and I'm going to open up the shadows a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, and now I'm going to use my graduated filter here, and I'm going to brighten up this bottom corner like this. You see that? Let's neutralize everything here. And I'm going to brighten that up. And the color's a little off on that side. There we go. And now we have it all synced up correctly. We can now click again on the graduated filter. Drop the exposure a tad. Add a little contrast. We can add some black maybe. See how we like that? That looks pretty good to me. So that's a before, so you get an idea, and an after. And we're going to copy all of those. Those look pretty good. And we go through and we check, like, this is a little bit too bright, so we're going to darken it up a little bit. And then I had her look at me. That looks pretty good. I like that. We can darken it up just a tad. These are the things that you have to train your eye to see color correctly, guys. Now I'm going to copy and paste all of these. Now I can copy and paste to this next photo, and I don't need that graduated filter anymore. So I'm going to click on that graduated filter, and I'm going to touch it, and I'm just going to press delete. So see, you can just grab it just like that and press delete. And now this can be its own exposure. So I'm going to click again on that graduated filter so I go back to my normal color here. And I'm going to brighten. I'm going to add a little bit of blue because I think it's too warm. And that looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to copy and paste all of these. So then again here, I do that pose with the hand up. And then I drop the hand down, and I have her just sort of leaning in, flowers down, relaxed, soft smile. And then I have her kind of looking down for something a little bit softer, and I'm horizontal and I'm vertical. I'm full body. I've got all these leading lines here coming this way, leading to her this way. And then I lean in close, and now I'm using like framing. You see this right here? So I tilted the camera to do something a little bit different, and now I'm framing her inside of this, the light and dark. This is just shadow right here, guys, and this is the wall on the right side and the wall on the left side, but that shadow really frames her beautifully. So I'm going to brighten it up a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of brightening of the shadows. I'm going to correct my color just a tad, just a little bit, darken it up, and we're just sort of playing with the exposures until we like what we see. I think that looks pretty good. So that's a before. This is a before, and this is the after here. I'm going to add a little bit more pink, a little bit of vibrancy, and I'm going to warm it up just a tad because I think it looks better. There you go. So again, before and after. Now you click on that first image, press shift and drop them all the way over. Click on that last image, press sync, and all of those are going to be synced up. Look at how beautiful that looks. Now I took a picture of her on the stairs. I did far away, I did mid-range, and then I did close-up. You have to have a variety of images, guys. And here I shot with my wide angle lens, which is a 17-40 f4.0 at 20 millimeter at a 50th of a second, ISO 800, and I had my flash, off-camera flash, bringing in some light. So I like that. I'm just going to add a little bit of magenta to this because it's a tad green. I'm going to copy this all over, all the way to this last image. And then I'll go through it and lighten and brighten anything that I need to. So brighten it up. I'm going to add a little bit of blue here because it's a little bit too warm. Again, sync them up. And that's what I just keep doing, guys. I just keep syncing as I'm going. I love this half body. And then I have her bring her hand up to her chin just for a different photo. So that's the photo here. I'm going to brighten that one up just a tad. And then I do a vertical close-up, soft and smiling. And then I did some family photos. The color looks pretty good here. I might want to warm it up just a tad. I mean, like literally +2, nearly nothing. We're going to brighten, add a little contrast and a little vibrancy. I was so in love with this mom's dress. This color is gorgeous. And I'm going to copy and sync all of the images that were shot in that scenario. So those all look good. And as you were moving forward, you can see that they're syncing. Now this one just got warmer. I might have changed the calibration on my camera. I'm going to add a little bit more blue here. And you can see my off-camera flash is coming in on the left side. I'm going to brighten it just a tad. And I'm going to sync the rest of those photos. And I'm just watching as it's adding all of the settings to the images. Looks good. As we're going, you can see they're just changing. I don't know if you guys can see that. You should be watching all of my videos in higher resolution. So click on the bottom right hand side here and the little gear and bring your settings up a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of warmth to this image and sync. And I'm watching them go. So here I shot her with her mom and her with her mom and her sister. Usually I tell them, you can put your arms around waists, not up above shoulders. You don't want any weird worms hanging out on shoulders up here. Then what are called padrinos, which are people that help with the wedding, and they're special, or quinceañeras are special and important to the wedding. And then the whole family, mom, dad, her and her little sister. Full body, close up, vertical and horizontal. And then a big hug shot. I like really nice bright smiles, so I love to do like a big hug, and that allows people to Get really close. And then I got dad in here, and then I got her and her sister. You want to get all, you know what, guys, out of all the years in business that I've been in, like, these are the pictures that are so important. And I know for most of us, it's like, oh, family portraits, you know, yawn, boring, or whatever, because we're so into, like, the cool, fashiony photos or the cool, fun, you know, portraits that we shoot. And those are super important, too. But I cannot state enough how important it is to have family portraits. So here the videographer was taking some, I'm going to delete this one. The videographer was taking some photos, some images of them talking about the quinceanera. So now we're at the church and I'm checking my lighting. Before anything, I set up my light, I check my lighting, I make sure it looks good. I set my background image up first, and then I fill in with off-camera flash. And this is my daughter that's here. And once I have the light right, I go in and I do a gray card photo. So now I can delete all of these images. And what I do is I set my custom functions. I'm going to do a video just on custom functions, guys, so you guys can know how to set your custom functions up so that no matter which direction or which lighting you're doing your photography in, you can just click on your custom function and it'll get all those settings the way that you set them up before you started shooting everything that you needed to shoot. So if you don't know how to use your custom functions, look it up on YouTube like after this video, how to set up my custom functions or what are custom functions on a camera. So right now I have all of these images. I'm going to delete all of these. These are all the images that I shot in order to set up. And then I have her up here so I can check the light on how it's. All right. So I set her up in all the locations where she's going to be walking up the aisle. She's going to be standing up here. I have these two settings for custom function, which means I went to manual mode and I set all this up, the right color, the right everything, 1/60th of a second, 4.0 ISO 4000 with my 50mm lens. And I set that on my camera as a custom function. It was custom function 1. And then I set everything up here perfectly, 125, 4.0, ISO 400 with my 50mm lens. And I set this up as custom function 2. And then I went in and set this image up as custom function 4. So that no matter where in the church I was shooting, I was always just going to be able to click on those custom functions and have the right settings come up. Now, it's not always 100% perfect, but it's pretty damn close. The lighting could change and you might have to set another custom function, but at least you're going to be pretty close. So here is the photographs of the church that I shot, just some detail shots, some beautiful detail shots. And then here they come. The first photo that I shot, and I'll delete this one because it's the little kids in the way. The first setting that I shot is this image here of all the people and people starting to walk in. And they're in the dark background here. I love this shot where I can turn this into a black and white image of everybody just walking in. And if you're like all of a sudden you don't know what to do and you're stuck and you're like, oh my God, I didn't set a custom function for this, or something new comes up, you can always go to AV mode or even the green box, guys. I'm not opposed to people shooting on automatic. You can shoot with your little green box if something comes up that you need to take a picture really quickly. Now, I don't like auto mode because it does weird things like puts you at a 40th of a second. I would never shoot at a 40th of a second. But if I want to get this shot really quick, I just put it on the little green box and click it, and I don't worry about it. But then I go back to my custom function, I set up my light, and now everybody's walking in, and it's a perfect exposure of people walking in. Now, I'm at 160th of a second, guys, just under my sync speed, because people are walking, and you want to make sure that you have this setting correct. Otherwise, your images are going to be blurry. So just like this, okay? There you go. There's no blur because I'm at 1/60th of a second. And I'm just shooting as they're walking by. All the girls are walking by. The parents are walking by. Padrinos are walking by. Mom and dad are walking by. And it's a perfect exposure. And then my girl comes in. And everything is still a perfect exposure, okay? I'm going to brighten these up just a tad but they really don't need anything else because I already had my camera settings set up and ready to go. And now I just turned my camera around and clicked and kept clicking and shot her walking down the aisle. Now, all churches have these crazy rules about where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, and I have to turn off my flash, get it out of the way, and shoot in natural light. But I already had my custom function set for natural light. So here is the setup already ready to go with my custom function with my quinceañera already up in the front. And these images are just nailed. There's really nothing else that you need to add to these. These look perfect. Now, if I wanted to go in there and change some of the stuff, like I can brighten up the shadows, but I really love the drama of this image. So I'm really not going to be changing much of this. I love that the lighting is on her and that everything else is in black silhouette. I just love that look. So I'm not really going to change much about these photos. They're really dramatic and really beautiful, and I love them just like that. Now I go in and I take detail photos, candles, and the singer. This guy was amazing, by the way. I'm going to put his information down below in the comment section so that if you guys are ever in the Orange County area, you can hire him. He was such a great singer for Latin singing. He did a really great job. So we just went through and I shot all the little detail photos and my girl in different angles. I have her stacked. I have images right in the middle of the church. Then I went in, and this is when I will go back to manual because I did not set up a custom function for this photo. So I went to manual and I shot my first image, and it was at 1/60th of a second, 2.8 ISO 800. And I was like, nah, too dark. So I brightened it up, and instead of being at ISO 800, I went up to ISO 2500, and that's a much better exposure. Now, of course, I can still take this image and brighten it up and add some contrast and all that good stuff, but I like my images perfect right off the bat. So I like this image better. I'm going to add a little bit of black to this image, and I can cool it down just a tad, but I kind of like the warmth. So I'm going to sync all of those photos. And look at this. Oh my God, I just love this photo. Look at this. Just her. This is all just about her. It's so beautiful. Wide angle. You can just see the tiny little flicker of the images. Now, I could brighten it up a little bit more, or I can darken it up, whatever you want, or I can even bring up the shadows a lot more and dull the highlights and brighten it up a lot more. But I really like that it's very dramatic. So this looks pretty good to me. This looks really good to me, and you can, it's sort of an artistic expression, guys. You can do whatever you want. I love drama. I love the depth and darkness of this image, and what I do then is just kind of play with it a little bit, like do some different exposures. Now, I want to give my client the option of having one where the church shows a little more. So I might take this third image and I might bring up the shadows on it, just like this. I might brighten it up a little bit. I might save the highlights from it so that I can give her a little bit more of an exposure that shows everything. If it was a shot I was going to choose, it would definitely be this one. This is what I love. This is what sets me apart, I think, is just that, you know, that beautiful dark and depth and contrast to my images. So, but to be safe, I don't know what the client wants or what she likes, so I'm going to give her a little bit of everything. And here, these are images that I shot in order to get a layered photograph, or a photograph with a multi-exposure. So I shot a whole bunch of different images, and I just did it in camera. So this, I think, is the image that it gave me in camera by taking a whole bunch of different exposures. And I like to leave it in a natural look, so I can just delete the ones that don't work or that I don't like this one and this one. And I can leave the rest for the client. And then I went in and just played with, I don't like that one, so we'll remove it. There are occasional images that I don't like, right? So like this one should be a little bit darker. and that's a better exposure. But check that out, all that like negative space on the left hand side, and then she's right here peeking through these columns. I love that. I love stacking people in front, silhouetted. I think it's beautiful. And here she is again in between columns. I'm gonna add a little bit more pink to this image, just a tad, and I'm gonna sync those. And then I got an exposure of the parents, and here I am with the 70 to 200, 250th of a second, 4.5 at ISO 2500. Now this is an image stabilization lens, guys. That's why I'm able to shoot at 250th. If you don't have an image stabilization lens, you might want to bring up your ISO and shoot at about 500th of a second. If you're a little shaky like I am, I would definitely do 500 or even more. So love these images of the parents and then some kids. Again, candles, and I shot the priest who strangely I think looks a little bit like Mr. Rogers. I'm going to add a little bit of black, a little bit of contrast here. I'll sync those photos. Then I shot one here with the videographer shooting the priest, which I kind of like images like this. And I shot a far away photo. And I'm just walking around shooting all the different angles and shots that I can get, because there's really not a lot that you can do. Oh, I love this floor. I love the detail of the reflection of the floor, so I shot that. Shot a bunch of those in different angles and different shots. Shot her with a lot of negative space up above. Again, stacked. Finally looking in this direction. Shot some details of the church. Here's the pillar. Beautiful. I even like reflection photos of like light being streaming through a window. I shot her here, and then I wanted her a little bit brighter here, so I brightened it a little bit. And I was only allowed to be in particular areas, so all of these look great. I don't really have to touch them much. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm shooting a lot with the 7200. Now I'm going to bring in the wide angle lens. And again, that's beautiful right there. Brighten it up just a tad. Sync that. Oh, that one's too bright, so drop it down a little bit. So it just gives us a little bit of a different look and some variety. And again, we want to be really wide and really shallow. And here's guests with her here. Now, this is another area where you can use the graduated filter, and you can come up this way, shorten it, bring it up, and brighten up everybody here. There you go. And now you have an image where both people are in focus and nice and bright. Or you can leave it the way that it was. It's really up to you what you like and what you want to do. So here everybody is saying hello. I'm going to brighten this up just a tad. I got another shot of the video guy. Now I did a shot with the video guy's camera, and then I shot one that's darker so that I can stack them if I want that image. Then I can just bring in her on the other image. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Here again, I can bring in this graduated filter and brighten up this area here so that the people in the back are a little bit brighter. And I like to mix them all up, make sure that they look the same. So that's good right there. And I can bring in another graduated filter. So click on it again and bring it right here so that this pillar doesn't go out of range here. And I can darken just the pillar up, and I can warm it up. So you can have multiples of this graduated filter in one image. So I'm going to sync all of those. And it's not perfect, so I'm going to bring in that graduated filter. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to bring it over. Same thing over here, because I might have moved the camera. So, and then we go back to these very beautiful dramatic photographs. Unclick on your graduated filter, guys. Brighten it up, bring up the shadows, whatever you like and you want. Okay. The thing about photography is it's really about your artistic impression and ideas of the day of, right? It's up to you. You can do so much with, I can brighten this image and make it so less dramatic. I can do whatever I want with this image. It's my interpretation of the day. So here she went over to the Mary to drop off flowers. Now this image, I didn't have a custom function already set for it. So I can click on my little gray white balance selector, and I can click on any part of the wall and it'll give me a correct white balance. Brighten it up, add a little magenta. Same thing with the next image. I try to really quickly change my color balance, but I can grab my white picker here and already kind of does it for me. And this one's a little bit too much, but let's see. See, when it's way far off, it doesn't look good. So I'd remove this image. So you want to get as close as possible to it, but it doesn't have to be perfect like this one, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to warm it up still just a tad. Now we're back in the front and the light changed. So the light was beaming down on her and now the light has moved. So now all of this area is brighter and I had to set another custom function. But it's kind of cool, and now the light is really soft and it's not blaring down on her and it looks really beautiful. But I love it exactly how I shot it. I don't think anything needs to be done to this image. Now she's turned around, and if we need to brighten up, we'll brighten up. And I love the reflection here. Look at that beautiful reflection. Isn't that gorgeous? So I can brighten it up just a tad. Maybe add a little bit of pink. Sync those. And then here we go. I brought that flash in and I can brighten this up a little bit more. Drop those highlights so I don't blast my background, up the shadows. And then as she was getting closer to my flash, I was getting a little bit better exposure. Brighten it up a little bit. And now she's right up against my flash and it doesn't need much. But I still don't want to blow out this background, so I'm going to save my highlights here. That looks really good. I'm going to sync those. And everybody walked out pretty quickly. So these are all the photos that I got of everybody walking out. Nobody took their time. So like here, this little kid is blinking. And I'm going to sync all of those together because they just kind of single filed and just walked right out. Normally I like people to walk out one by one. I like to get a nice shot of everybody, but everybody did their thing here. So now we're outside and I'm checking my exposures for outside. This is a little bit bright, so I can darken it just a tad. And just a tad of darkness. Again, we can save this highlight here on this side by grabbing the highlight. It's not going to be saved perfectly, but it's pretty good. And usually what I'll do is I'll just tell my client, like, come over to the shade, you know, like get them to do whatever it is that you want them to do. Again, I'm shooting some detail photos here and I'm gray carding again. So I shot the gray card. I set my custom balance here. Shot the gray card, make sure everything looked good so that I get a nice clean look, because this area was super warm. As you can tell right here, these walls are like really warm, almost yellow. So any light that's bouncing around there is going to look really warm. So I had to make sure that I set my white balance with this gray card right off the bat. So I can delete all of those once that's done, right? I don't need that anymore because the custom white balance is done. So I can delete those. And now the color looks super clean and really nice. Look at that beautiful, perfect color. That's the difference between shooting your gray card and not shooting your gray card. So I'm deleting all of these images because they're just people standing. All right, guys, so we're at family portraits, and these family portraits look pretty damn good because the color is so nice. I'm going to add a tad of contrast. I'm going to save my highlights a little bit because this area is a little bit blown out, so I can save my highlights just a tad right there. That makes a nice difference. I'm going to add a little bit of vibrancy, not too much. Brighten it up just a tad. Little contrast. Let's see what a little black will do. All right, I think I like that. I think that looks pretty good. Let's brighten it up just a bit more. I think that looks really good. So I'm going to take this setting and I'm going to grab all of the family portraits. Now, that's just a basic setting. As I'm moving, as the light is changing, we may need to change those settings. So I can see it as it's saving all of these to all the different images, whether I'm still liking that setting, right? I might have changed something. Like here, it's a vertical image. Something might have changed. I can brighten it up a little bit more. And I'm going to sync those. And then I check that last image and I'm going to darken it up just a tad. And I'm going to sync those. So things do change as we're moving around. They might turn a little bit and that'll change the exposure just a tad. So you never know. Just go through them slowly and check all of the settings. This looks really nice. All of these are looking really nice. This one needs to be a little bit brighter, starting where? Here. Now I probably just messed this one up, so we're going to remove it because it doesn't look quite right. And I'm going to brighten this one up just a little bit. Bring up the shadows just a tad underneath this hat and sync these. And I'm watching them as they're going. Like here, all of a sudden it got a little bit too bright. I don't know. It could be psychological. Maybe I think it's bright and it's really not. Who knows? Just kidding, guys. You have to train your eye to do this. You have to train your eye to know what good color looks like. And it's not something that comes easily. It takes time. So I'm going to brighten this one up just a tad. I'm just showing you guys how I do this. There we go. All the way through to here. I'm going to go back and check them as they're going. They're looking good. Looking good. Here's a big family group. Let me double check it. And again, I always tell people arms around waist, remove your sunglasses, and on and on. There's a particular way to do these family portraits, making sure everybody is showing. Like here, this guy's a little bit hidden. You know, like you always got to be aware of where everybody's at. But some people do this crap on purpose too, I swear to you. Like one of these guys was like, no, I'm fine here. All right. And some people don't want to remove anything, and that's okay too, or they can't, or it's a medical device or something, and that's okay too. So all of these look great. Now we shot a couple of shots with the girls. Now you can't see it, but there's brightness right here. You see this? So I shot them in the shade so that all the light is one color and consistent. Now the only problem with shooting something where there's very bright light underneath the client is that it can give you color where the light is coming from underneath. It's not too bad here, but sometimes you have to be aware of that. Is it too much? Does it not look good? All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue to this. I'm going to darken this up just a tad. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. I'm going to open up the shadows a little bit and save my highlights a tad. Add a little bit of vibrancy. These are things that I normally like to do to my images. So there's the before and there's the after. It's just a little bit of a difference, but it does make a difference. I'm going to copy all of those. Now, I'll show you a little bit of posing. Like I've got my girls here, some with the hand up, some with, you know, behind her little hand up. There's not a lot of height difference with these girls, so I couldn't do anything super spectacular, but I am always trying to do like a triangle shape. Triangles are everything, guys. Triangles, triangles, triangles. They're everything. So syncing all the way across. Now she brought in someone else to do a photo with her. So this was completely random, and this happens. You're going to, okay, I'll do another photo, and you might have lost your settings. So go back in your camera and check what your setting was and kind of set it up so that it won't be too far off. All right. And then I did a little bit of a walk with her. So she walked down this little corridor. And I'm having the girls kind of egg her on. I'm going to delete this because there's people walking in the background. And I'm going to brighten up this image, add some contrast. And bring up the shadows just a tad, and then copy all of these over. So here you can see that there's a car in the background on this image. Like that will normally bother me. But here, when I set her up for a pose, then I shot at a little bit of an angle, so we don't have to worry about that. All right, so going through, checking the images. I'm going to darken it up just a tad, cool it off just a little, save my highlights a little. Let's go back. I'm going to start saving my highlights right here. Right there. It's a little bit too warm for me, so I'm going to cool it off just a tad, just a tad. Let's add a little bit of clarity, a little bit of vibrancy, and there we go. I'm going to sync to the next image. I'm still shooting her. She's still walking, having some fun. In Photoshop, I'd probably remove this entire thing because I can't stand this. But I didn't want to get a shot of her. We're already running late, so I didn't want to get a shot of her, miss out on this opportunity to get these beautiful pillars in the background. But I would definitely remove that car in Photoshop. Looks pretty good. Looks super cute, really nice, really fun. I'm syncing as I'm going through, and here's another pose. Now I had her just lean her shoulder up against the pillar, and beautiful 3/4 lighting. Everything still looks good. The previous settings still look really good, so I'm just copying and pasting these settings. And the dad wanted me to take a photo of her here. I would never, ever, ever shoot in this scenario. But if a parent's going to ask me for something, I'm going to do it. I mean, it's the worst lighting in the world. It's facing the street. I would never shoot this, but the dad was like, hey, can you take a quick picture of this? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm not going to say no, but I would never, ever, ever shoot under this hideous lighting conditions, ever, 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 facing the street, ever. I would never shoot this. Okay. But since I'm here, and maybe the dad wants this photo, I don't know, I am going to open up the shadows. I'm going to save the highlights here, bring it up a little bit, add some clarity, add some vibrancy. Again, I stress that I would never shoot. All right, guys, so we went to that little shopping village, seashore village, whatever it's called in, I'm deleting these images. Obviously, I was testing my light. In Long Beach, and it's over by the aquarium. And I've never needed a shoot permit here, so it's a place that I like to go to. Nobody's going to hassle me. It's been pretty easy to shoot here. And I'm going to click again on my gray card. And I'm going to tell you something else about this gray card. You see this, guys? You see these images right here? The back also has more gradations. And you can shoot on these also. Like you can click on this and get different colors of darkness, warmth, whatever you want. Like this is the most neutral one, but on the back side there's also more grays, and you can make your gray darker or lighter or cleaner or whatever you want, like warmer, cooler, anything. So here I'm gonna click on a gray, a neutral. There we go. And I'm going to sync that over, and again we can tweak that. I'm going to delete these now, and I might have already tweaked it too, so you never know. On camera I might do something. It's a little bit on the warm side, so I'm going to brighten it up just a little bit, and I'm going to add some blue. And when I'm shooting in this direction towards the sun with the girl's sun in the back, now let me tell you, this was shot at pretty much the worst time of day. As you can tell by the shadows, it's very early in the day. It's not anywhere near sunset, but this is the kind of stuff that I have to shoot at all the time in the worst lighting conditions. So I normally put my clients back to the sun and I shoot straight ahead, and I'm shooting with an off-camera flash at 1:1 power with an umbrella, so I can have a little bit more of a flashy look, but I like it to look somewhat natural. So I'm going to add some black to this. I'm going to add some contrast. I'm going to add a little bit of vibrancy. And that looks much better to me. So I'm going to copy and paste all of these. And I'm shooting with a wide angle, which is not a prime lens, which means it's just going to look crappier if you don't add some more black. So I'm right here, and I did a vertical and a horizontal, and I'm going to brighten it up a little bit more. And then I brought the flash in a little bit closer, and I went a little bit more wide angle so I can get a little bit more power. But these are all of the images here. I'm going to add a little bit more pink. Yep, starting here. So it's a little bit green. I don't know if you guys can see it, that the color's a little bit green. So I'm going to add a little bit more magenta to it, and that looks a lot better. So I'm going to copy and sync those. And a lot of the times when I'm shooting in this time of day, those images are going to look a little flashy, but I'm just getting, there were some extra people there, and I'm just like, hey, get together and, you know, let's take some photos. So here I'm checking the light on this image that I'm shooting so I can delete this. And I'm shooting a picture of them just kind of all walking, having fun, being silly. Again, light is behind my subject. And the reason that you get the light behind your subject is because all these buildings and all these settings are in the same lighting condition, which means that your image is going to look a little bit more, it's going to look better to the eye. Now, all of this ground is blown out. It's a bright cement. But here we can add some black to add some contrast. I'm going to add some vibrancy. And you can add those highlight. You can save some of those highlights, but really, the only thing that I see here is I can bring back this lighthouse back here. But mess with your blacks. That's really what you want to add when you're shooting backlit like this. So copy those, paste them to all of the images. I'm going to start here with this one, and I'm going to paste all the way across all the images that are in that lighting condition. Now again, I'm going back and making sure they all look good. But I'm shooting her having fun. I just want them to be silly and be themselves and have a good time. These are more photojournalistic photos. They're not posed. The girls are just having a good time. So I'm shooting. Then I zoom into her and I'm just shooting. Zoom into the girls laughing in the background for a couple of fun shots. And here she's really close to the camera and it's getting a little bit darker. So I'm going to brighten it up because now she's right up against me. So brighten it up just a tad and copy and sync those. Now I'm back to her being far away and I'm going to just shoot her walking. Now I don't have any problem with people in the background here. I think this is a fun, very lifestyle like photo. And I've got the girls egging her on to have a good time and just making her laugh the whole time. And I'm like, egg her on, guys, let's have some fun. And I'm using them to help kind of brighten up the mood and get her, because it was a very warm day. So I'm sure they were all like, ugh, I'm so hot. So they actually were like, do a turn. And, you know, and they were egging her on and just got some really cute, fun photos here. So here I'm close up. I'm going to brighten it up again, just a tad while she's closer. And now I am shooting up against a wall. And again, you notice that I have her nose pointing towards the light. So I love this photo here with this dramatic kind of shadow being cast here. This really cool bright wall. I'm going to add some vibrancy because we are in a really cool bright wall. And you can also bring up the shadows a little bit if you want to, so you don't have such harsh shadows. It's up to you. Add a little bit of pink to this or a little bit of magenta to bring up that dress a little bit. And I'm going to copy and paste all of those settings. And let's go back and make sure they're being pasted correctly. Now I'm having her just laugh. I literally tell my clients start to crack up. Just start cracking up and I start laughing with them. And they're just enjoying themselves, right? They're laughing, they're enjoying themselves. I love this photo. I love that drama, that lighting that's just, you know, kind of dramatic, and that vibrancy on that wall. And now I brought all of the girls over and I'm going to brighten up this picture just a little bit. And I'm gonna brought up those shadows, and I like that a lot. And I'm gonna copy and paste all of those. And I'm shooting super wide angle. There's very little. There's like 10 feet between me and the girls. I'm right up against the edge of the water there with the dock. So Then I had them do a hooray shot. I'll darken that up just a tad. So I do different poses in different areas. So here, standing, looking at me, looking away, all wide angle, really dramatic. Then I bring the girls in, do a horizontal, do a vertical image. I tell them just to do a relaxed pose, whatever they want to do. Then I come closer, and then I have them do a hooray shot. And now we're off to another section. So here, I'm going to delete that one. We don't want that. I'm checking the light. I told her to use the other hand. And what I'm doing is a picture of her reflected with the light on her, so I can get the background of everybody behind here. So I'm going to add a little bit of black to this image, and I'm going to copy and paste. So this one I think is a little bit soft. Let's look. Yeah, because this is a really hard image to get in focus, and a lot of times I have to see, here's my off-camera flash, and I'm shooting her this way, and then I told her to turn, and you can see the lighthouse in the background. Now in a great scenario, this ugly ladder wouldn't be here, but I didn't have another window that looked like this. So we have all the people in the background. I thought this was kind of a cool image. And now I'm shooting a picture of the girls and the kids all sort of having fun. So I call this a Chinese fire drill. I don't know why it's called that, but I'm starting to check my lighting here. I don't want to be too overexposed. I'm shooting them with the light right up against them. So the light is kind of just a little bit off and to the right. So I'm going to go a little bit brighter. I'm going to open up my shadows a little bit so my shadows aren't that dark, and I'm going to go with a little bit of clarity, a little bit of vibrancy, and I'm shooting wide angle here, and that looks pretty good to me. So I shot a little bit dark here because I'm shooting with light right at them, and I don't want anything to be super overexposed. But those look perfect right there, with just a little bit more added brightness. Now I brought her over to a shadowed area where I can bring my off-camera flash, and I'm having her do these poses where she's looking down and she's playing with her hair and all that good stuff. So here I'm going to save my highlights a little bit so we can bring in some more of the sky. I'm going to open up my shadows just a tad now. Actually, I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to add a little bit of black to this. A little bit of contrast. And you just want to play around, guys, and see what looks good. These are the things I always do. I like to add a little bit of highlight, add a little bit of shadows normally, add a little bit of blacks depending on what time of day I'm shooting, and add a little bit of vibrancy, and that looks beautiful. And now I have my flash, off-camera flash right here off to the right with an umbrella, and it's a pretty powerful flash. So I'm at 1:1. In order to be able to get this background also like not blown out, you really need to bring that flash really harsh right up against her. So I'm going to copy and paste all of these settings. And here we go. And I'm always just checking to see where we're at. Now here I can go a little brighter. And I'm having her look up at the camera, look down, look to the side, all those cute poses. Brighten it up a little bit more. And now I brought her over to the side and got a little bit of flare here. I'm going to add more black. That's beautiful. Look at that. The light from the back and the light from the camera. There's a little wind blowing. It's a very pretty image. See that? I love using the sun as a rim light, and I also love filling in with flash at a 3/4 angle here. And again, everything else in the background looks gorgeous, so this is a very beautiful photograph. And here I'm shooting with the light behind her. I'm going to brighten up just a tad. And now I brought in the group. So because I brought the group in, I needed to pull my flash a little farther away. So I need to brighten it up a little bit more. Or again, bring up those shadows. Either one. Whatever you like, play with it. Sync all of those images. And here I can see that one's still a little dark. There we go. So I have the boy here with his hand in his pocket. This girl here with her hand on her hips. This girl here with her hand up. This one with her hand up. This one right here behind. Those look really good. And now I do the shot where they're all kind of looking at each other, smiling and laughing. Syncing all of those. And maybe one out of this whole set will look good, you know? Especially when you're dealing with kids, like possibility is that less come out because they're not as responsive to paying attention, but these kids did really well. So brightening these up. But you notice how soft the light is when you use an umbrella to soften up your flash, your off-camera flash. Like, it's just really beautiful lighting. Look at that. Looks like studio lighting, and basically it's what it is. It's studio lighting. So here we go. Now you can remove an image, like this kid who's got his eyes closed. You can just remove it, or you can leave it in, and you can always swap the eyes later if you need to. So I'm adding a little bit of black because I have her a little bit farther down. Now she's in the sunlight. Sunlight's behind her. Add a little contrast, darken it just a tad. Add a little vibrancy, and let's sync all of those. And guys, the way that I use my off-camera flash and the way I set it up is the first photo that I take, I'm obviously going to shoot. Here it's 160 at f9 at 200th of a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is set my shutter speed so that it's under 200th of a second for syncing, right? I usually do 160. And I set my background up first, so I did 9.0 at ISO 200, and my background looked pretty good. And then I go in with my flash and fill in the light. Here's my flash. You see this, guys? That's my off-camera flash right there. Then I go in and fill in with my flash, and I fill into the power that I need. So here's my flash. I'm going to add more black to that. There we go. Those look really good. Now I did a photo with all the kids on the dock, and this is all natural light, again, with the back light behind them, so that everything else is kind of under the same exposure. So I'm going to brighten it. I'm going to save my highlights. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, tad of warmth, and I'm going to copy all of those. And now I did the floor shot that I like. So I'm in the shadows. I'm in the shade right here. I'm underneath a tree. I picked a pretty spot with not a lot of like dead green or anything. I'm going to click on my gray here. Sorry guys, we're trying to get a nice gray neutral tone here. Let's reset it. So it might be too warm. Let's check it. Yeah, it's too warm. Let's reset that again. A darker neutral area. All right, let's do this one. Nope, it's too warm. Because this one has different tonalities of warm on it. And it's trying to get me to click a different warm spot. So I'm going to do this manually, guys. Because this should have been darker. You always want to get this a little bit darker. So let's reset it. I'm going to darken it up a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Right there. I'm going to click on it. Nope. All right. So we're going to ditch that effort. We're going to manually go in and check our white balance. So let's reset that. For me, this is a tad bit on the cool side. So we're going to warm it up just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And again, I'm doing that whole shallow depth of field thing, guys. So we're going to go in here and brighten it up just a tad. Add a little contrast. And that looks really nice. I'm going to add a little bit of this magenta because that dress is very pink. And I'm going to copy and paste. And let's see how it looks with a different image. Gorgeous. I love the whole shoulder forward, kind of look back look. Really like setting up this area to be really like blown out, really shallow depth of field. And this one's a lot brighter, so we're going to darken it up. There we go. Love this photo. Okay. And now what I had her do is I kind of fluffed her dress out and I had her lay down on her dress. Now the light's coming from the side here, so at some point I brought my flash in and brought the light over from this side. But this area here, focusing on the lashes, so beautiful. And I'm going to just copy and paste all of these. And of course we can change them as we're going too. But this is what, you know, you got to do. You got to make images that look different, guys. Like, who does this? Nobody has people laying down. But, hey, lay her down. No problem. Look at that. Bring that hand in close to her eyes. You know, do the super shallow depth of field look. Looks really pretty. And then I had her look up. Eyes closed. Looking up. And then hand on her cheek. And then I thought, okay, well, I need the flash here. Because I need to be able to, I'm going to remove this and remove this one because I'm testing the light here. And I want to be able to balance it so that not so much light's coming over to this side. So I brought the flash in from this side now, but all the settings are probably still the same. Copy and paste all of those. I had her hand right up against her eyes here. That looks so beautiful. I'm just in love with these photos here. Sinking all the way across. Right here. And now I got a little bit dark and a little bit pink. I probably changed my settings somewhere here. Oh, blink. So I'm going to brighten this one up a little bit. Just like that. You can see on her highlights that there's a flash here. That's my umbrella right there. So that looks perfect, and we're going to sync all the way across. And now I had her stand up, and I'm checking the light here. I'm looking for just a little bit of light that's just different, you know. Everything else is dark, and I'm framing her with this little bit of light. And I shot my daughter here, and it looked great. So I'm going to save this fun shot of my daughter. So I'm going to export this image into a folder that I have of pictures of my assistants. And then I'm going to delete that photo, obviously, from my client's photos. So remove. I'm going to remove this photo from this guy who was messing around with me. And here is the picture. But again, someone in the background here. And someone in the background here. Oh, here we go. Beautiful photo. But again, too cool. So I'm going to add some warmth here. And I'm going to add also green. So I don't know if you can see that it's a little bit green. So I'm going to add some magenta. I'm going to brighten it up, and I'm going to add a little bit of blacks to this to separate it a little bit. And I love that right there. Brighten it up. A little bit more magenta. A little bit more warmth. And that's how I do it, guys. Just little by little. I'm going to copy and sync all of these images. And I love the look of the whole looking back at me look. You know, hey, bring your shoulders forward. Look back at me. And this rim light is heavenly. Look at this rim light. I'm always looking for that beautiful rim light. Always. And then I just have her do a couple different poses, kind of flip around, because I want to see this dress kind of flipping around. And people in the background, I'm just removing. I love this. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So, there we go. And now I got the girls up here. Again, backlit. So we're adding contrast or blackness to this. Brightening, adding a tad of warmth, adding a little bit of highlights, adding a little contrast. There we go. Too much warmth right there. That looks really good. Syncing all of those. And this was just a casual shot with all the girls. And now we've got this photo here where this was just in some weird structure here in the cement area. So I'm going to warm it up. I'm going to add some blacks. So that's like contrast without blowing out your white. So when you add blacks, you're not blowing out your whites like you would if you added contrast. See how that blows out your whites? I'm more apt to use black than I am to use contrast. Add a little vibrancy. And here I did a whole bunch of just silly face photos. So I counted 1, 2, 3, silly face, 1, 2, 3, silly face, 1, 2, 3, silly face. Oh, we can delete this one, obviously, where she was blinking. 1, 2, 3, silly face, 1, 2, 3, silly face, 1, 2, 3, silly face. And these are great for a little collage. And now I did 1-in-1 photos of all the girls. So here I'm adding just a bit of contrast. I don't want to blow out my highlights too much. And the color and everything looks really nice. So I'm just copying and pasting these settings to all of these photos. 1-in-1 pictures of the girls. She wanted pictures with her cousins and everybody. So we shot everybody here. You can see. Everybody here. 1-in-1 photos. So again, I'm backlit. Oh, let's delete that. I'm backlit and it's just natural light and it looks perfect and beautiful because we're exposing for the skin tone. And now I wanted her to do another walking shot. So here I got her doing a walking shot and I'm going to reset this photo. It's a little bit cool because we're in the shade, so we're going to warm it up. We're going to darken it up just a tad. Her skin tone looks a little bit too bright. I'm going to add contrast, a little bit of contrast, but mostly blacks. Look what a difference this already makes. Just a little black here. A little more warmth. A little bit more pink, magenta, right? Because there's a lot of green going on, so all of that's spilling onto the skin tones. And we're going to copy and paste all of those. Let's look at them. Look really cute. Just having her have some fun. We're going to do a little flip. Just having some fun. And here she's getting closer to the camera, probably closer to a bright directional light. I'm going to darken it up a little bit more. Because right beyond this shadow, there's more brightness. So it's going to get a little, she's going to get a little brighter. So we're going to darken it up just a tad. Just like that. There we go. And maybe a little bit too dark. No, it looks pretty good. And here I'm going to brighten it up. All right. And now we're kind of getting close to finishing it off here. Again, got that gray card. Clicking here. Just like that. Adding some warmth to that area. We're going to remove these two images here. Here we go. And I'm going to add a little bit of magenta to this. There's a lot of spilling of these colors all over. I'm going to add a little bit of black, a little bit of clarity, a little bit of vibrancy, a little bit of contrast. I'm going to darken it up just a tad, not too much. Sync those. Beautiful. I'm going to brighten it up a little bit more. So here I have her with the guy that's in the party, which is called a chambelán in Spanish. I'm going to remove that one. I love this photo. I'm going to save some highlights here and I'm going to darken it up a tad more. I'm going to add a little bit more black and a little bit of contrast because we really want to make that image pop. We're going to sync those. Looking pretty good. As I come closer, I think it's a little bit too warm. So I'm going to drop that down a little bit. Brighten it up because these are constantly changing, guys. Things are constantly changing during a shoot. So you got to go with it. All right. And then we did a pose of her walking up the stairs with the flash right next to her, really high up on the left-hand side. And the settings from the previous photo look pretty good here, except I'm going to darken it up a little bit. There we go. And here I'm going to open up the shadows a little. There we go. So we're going to copy and paste all of those settings. Again, copy and paste, guys. They're all pretty much the same. Look at this. Look at this beautiful rim light. This is what we're looking for. This gorgeous rim light with a fill-in light and a little bit of shadow. So you're actually sculpting how people look. It's not a flat image. It's not lit flat. So you want to bring some depth into your photographs, and you can do that by using light correctly. Like here, backlighting and adding some light here. And these are all pre-photoshopping, so I'm still going to take these images in to Photoshop and really refine them. All right, so now we wanted to do a bay photo, but there was such terrible lighting on the other side. So literally this is right across, like if you just turn around, you get this photo here. And I wanted to do something awesome with this back bay area, but the lighting was in the wrong place. So I tried to find a spot, and here again is my off-camera flash with my umbrella. I tried to find a spot where her face wasn't being polluted by these spots of light. So as long as her face isn't polluted, then it's not going to bother me very much. I mean, I would love it if I could have another huge, like, a scrim on this side and light it perfectly, but that's not always possible. So I'm going to remove this photo. I just shot that so you guys can see it. And here is the photo of my girl being off camera lit with the bay in the background. And you can see my horizon lines. I can't get my horizon lines right if my life depended on it. So I'm going to add some contrast. I'm going to add some warmth here. I'm going to save my highlights, right? Because we have a lot of these highlights. We don't want to blow them out too much. I'm going to darken the image just a tad. I'm going to come in close so I can see her skin tone. I'm going to brighten it up a little bit more, add a little bit more warmth, add a little bit of magenta here because, you know, want to nail the color here. I'm still going to add a little bit more warmth, a little bit more magenta. That's starting to look pretty good. Now, this is a spot where you can go in and shoot with and add the graduated filter and bring up the sky and make it a little darker. So, graduated filter, drop it down, and I am going to set it all up here so that we can warm up the sky and darken it up. Not too much. I mean, this is going to look really fake if you do it too much. So this is normal. We're just going to darken it a tad. We're just going to add a little bit of contrast here. Save our highlights because those clouds are highlights, right? Add a little saturation. Not too much. We don't want it to look fake. Just a tad. There we go. And now we can copy and paste all of these to each image. And here's the next photo. And if it gets in the way here, like it's probably close to her face, then we can bring it up a little bit more. Same thing here. We can bring it up a little bit more. And this image needs to be brightened a little bit more. So there's individual images that we need to kind of play with. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. This one, the flash didn't go off very much, so we're going to brighten it up. And that's okay, even if the flash, like let's say I was shooting too quickly and the flash didn't go off very well, then I can just do that. Plus, we can bring in a graduated filter. If we click on this graduated filter here, we can darken up this whole other side over here. So, click on here. Let's bring it up a little bit more. Right there. And we're going to darken all of this up a little bit. Add some magenta here. Save those highlights. And you can add darkness here and leave this area in the middle normal. See? So you can just do whatever you want to do here. This one, my flash went too high or I messed up the image, so we're going to remove it. And let's copy this and paste it over here. Which one did we have that was double? I think it was this one. I'm going to paste those all over. See how it looks. I'm going to darken this image just a tad. Darken that over. And so I have her doing a whole bunch of different poses. Just having fun. And I'm trying not to let these big old highlight spots bother me that much, but this was really one of the only spots that I could do. And brighten. And then these are overexposed. I was probably just checking the light. So we're deleting those. Sometimes I don't delete them off camera. Sometimes I do. So here's another picture. I had her bring the flash in a little bit closer. And I like that a lot better. Just because it was such a bright day. So these look really nice. That looks good. And see, I pulled away the flash. It doesn't look as good. So I'm going to remove that. And these I don't like as much. Flash didn't go off, so I'm going to remove them. So because these look really good. And again, we're playing around, guys, seeing what looks good. And you can experiment while you're shooting, and you don't have to save those images if they didn't come out right. It's just the way it is. Let's darken this one, see if I like it. Yeah, I do. I think that looks pretty good. But I think this one's much better. So now we are at the reception, or the party part of our photo shoot. And here we have the detail photos that I'm taking of the room. Again, we can use that graduated filter and brighten up this side of the room. Just like this. Warm it up. This side of the room is warm, so we can warm up this side of the room. We're going to sync all of those. Makes a pretty nice difference, doesn't it? And here this is too bright, so we take that graduated filter and we bring it over this way. And we darken this side of the room. And oh, there we go. Darken, darken, darken. Warm it up and darken. Let's add some, a little bit more warmth since that area is warmer. We're going to add more contrast to this side of the room because there's a lot of bleeding on this side. And here's the other graduated filter. You can remove that one, and that way they even out. So copy and sync those. Let's see how this one looks. This one looks pretty good. I can even move this graduated filter over more. And let's say it's a little bit too dark now. We can just go to the regular, to get away from the graduated filter, go to our regular panel and brighten the whole thing up. Just like that. And I'm just shooting detail photos, checking the light, seeing how I like everything. That one I made brighter. And you can play with the colors, see what you like. Warm it up, cool it off, what looked right to you. Add some highlight control, maybe bring up the shadows, maybe add a little bit of clarity, whatever you guys want to do. Whatever looks right to your eye. Again, start training your eye. And here I'm shooting natural light so that everything kind of looks the same in the background, and that looks pretty good. And I think I'm starting to go a little bit too pink here, so let's check. Nope, it looks good. I'm going to brighten it up just a tad. Here I'm shooting a 200 2.8 with my 50 millimeter. My 50 millimeter is the one I use for almost all of my detail photos because you can get that really nice shallow depth of field. And again, I'm shooting these flowers. There's different flowers at different tables, so I'm shooting all of them. And I like them nice and shallow depth of field, so that you're highlighting just what it is. So this one is starting to get a little bright, so I'm going to darken it up just a tad. Here we go. Nice detail photos, nice detail photos. And now I'm shooting this lady who is painting. She's just starting her painting. So here I can brighten it up a little bit and open up the shadows. Gives you a little bit more here. I came in close, and now I can drop the highlights to bring up. So it's the opposite, right? Here we were really focusing on the painting, so we're opening up the shadows. And here we had a little bit better exposure for her, but this was starting to, we were starting to lose that. So instead of having it like that, we can just click on highlights and save that painting a little bit more. Here I'm shooting the head table. I'm shooting the dessert bar. I usually get a whole shot of the dessert bar, and then I come in close for the detail photos. And I'm shooting this with an off-camera flash to the right or to the left. I like my details to have a lot of gradation in light and dark, so I don't like flat lighting. So here you'll see that I'm shooting to the right with the highlights to the right. Let's save a little bit of those highlights here. So I'm going to brighten this up a little bit, just a tad, and I think it's, I don't know, a little bit too warm. Let's see. Add a little bit of magenta here, and I'm going to copy all of these and paste them all the way through this whole area. So now we're checking all the little details. I'm shooting 2.0, 150 millimeter, ISO 640. And let's darken this up just a tad. I'm just shooting all the little details that I know that they're going to want. All these cute little details. Now when I'm on top of this jar, I'm going to go up, save my highlights so that I can get all of this information here. Beautiful. And now we're getting too bright, so I'm going to darken this up. Save my highlights here. There you go. I'm going to copy and paste these two here. So sometimes it's hard to tell what you're on and what you're off. So I'll like click on a different area and go back. So now I'm going to click here because we had different things highlighted. So click here and sync. There we go. Darken this up just a tad. And now the cake. And I added a little bit of brightness, so I'm just going to take it away. And you see how I have dark on this side and light on this side? It's because I have my off-camera flash to the left now. And I really like that look of like light to dark. So you get some three-dimensionality. I don't like flat lighting, guys. I just can't stand it. Adding more magenta, so we have more of a pinkness because there's a lot of pinkness in this area. I'm going to sync here. And here we go. Much better. Brighten it up a little bit. And as I'm going, I'm changing my exposure, so you can also change your Lightroom settings, right? Beautiful. Look at this cake. I mean, look at this whole thing. Isn't that just gorgeous? My God. And I'm just shooting details here. I'm making sure I'm not blowing anything out, making sure my color looks good. This is a remembrance table. You can't really see this here, so I'm going to add some highlight there. Look at it, what a big difference that made. So now you can see all these little details that would normally be blown out. So here I am. Same thing here. This is all white. So I'm going to click on highlight, and all of a sudden it all comes in. Syncing those. This is a little pre-shoot that I did for her. This was a cute little wall with fresh flowers. And I'm going to add a little bit of highlight there, a little bit of contrast. Beautiful. And I shot people in front of the wall so you can see how big the wall is. And I also shot details of the wall. Now these were cream colored flowers, so I don't want to go in and click on that. It would be too blue. So we're going to add blue just a little tiny bit. And we'll sync that. And I'm shooting all the details from the reception. Lollipops and flowers, and that's what I do the first 15-20 minutes that I'm at a location. And now I'm checking the light for them walking in. So here we have all of these photos, and until I like it, I just keep messing with my settings. So here I'm shooting at 1/100th of a second at ISO 4.0. I'm at 4.0 because people walk in together with my 50mm lens. I'm at 100th of a second because people are walking. I'd like to be a little bit higher, but then I'm going to lose out on all of the color in the background. So I'm going to export these because it's my kid, and I love to have all those extra photos of my kid. And then I'm going to delete those photos. So here I have my gray card again. So I'll delete all of these. And here is my gray card, and I'm going to come in here and click on that. Very little changed. We went a little bit cooler here, but let me sync it so you can see the difference. So it just basically added a little bit of coolness, but it looks right on the money. That's the nice thing about having that gray card, but make sure your gray card is not too blown out, otherwise Lightroom won't like it. So we're going to delete this image now because we've already saved those settings, and we're going to click And we're going to sync all of those settings all the way across all the photos of people walking up. So it was this one right here, which is -9, -4, with temperature, a little bit of extra exposure, and I'm going to go all the way with everybody walking in, and I'm going to click and sync all of those photos. So let's double check them as they're going through. Oh, the color looks perfect. The blues look perfect. Everything looks gorgeous as it's coming. I'm going to tell you something else that I do, guys, and this is a little hint and tip that I'm going to give you. You see here, as people are walking, I'm at 4.0 here. As they get closer to my flash, I start bringing this up. So here I'm at 5.0. And here, as people get closer to my flash, here I'm at 5.0. So when they're farther away, I'm at 4.0. But because they're going to get closer and closer to my flash, it's going to get brighter. I'm clicking my aperture settings as people are walking through. And sometimes I can go from 3.5 to 5.6. Like right here, again, 5.0. And then back here, 4.0. And they're perfect exposures. And I do that, and I check my light with my daughter, or whoever your assistant is. My daughter just happens to be here for the summer, and she wants to work, so I have her working for me along with other assistants that I have. And as they're walking up, I'm changing the exposure, and here it's 5.0. And sometimes when people have a little bit like lighter skin, I may go in and darken their individual photos. Here again, 4.0, and as she's getting closer, 4.0, and then 5.0. Makes a big difference, guys. I'm just clicking with my right hand, and Canon, it's on the top right hand side. So I'm just clicking as they're walking. 5.0. And now here I'm at 4.5, and they're just having fun, and I'm keeping those exposures the same. Everything looks good here. They're sitting at their table, and here I think it's a little bit yellow. So let's see. I'm going to click on a gray, too blue, I think. This is too blue. You do want a little bit of warmth. So right there is good. I'm going to darken it just a tad. And we'll sync all those up. And then the video guy wanted to do the cake cutting before her hair and makeup was destroyed. So I had them right here behind the cake. It was a tricky shot because I've got my off-camera flash. I don't want them to be behind the cake. So here we go. I'm at 4.5, 1/100th of a second, 50mm lens. Off-camera flash is going to the right. Color looks really nice, really clean. And I'm shooting this, and everything looks good. And then I tell them to go off to the left side of the cake table and just do a quick family photo, so that if they want to put this in the album, you don't have those weird, like, you know, lines cutting across. So that looks good. That looks good. Anything where I'm shooting backlit, I always want to add a little bit of black. They had a band playing Latin music. Shot some photos of the band. All the exposures look really good, guys, here, so I'm really not too worried about this. I try to nail my exposures in camera. I try to nail my color in camera. But as I'm going through, I'm just kind of giving you some hints and tips here. Shooting some people. And then I think speeches are coming up here. I shoot this with an 85mm lens because I don't want to be right in front of their faces. Sometimes I'll shoot this with the 70-200. Color looks really good. Speeches, lighting's all the same. And the nice thing about setting up your lighting and setting up your color and everything is that I can move around and get different photos and different angles. And my lighting's always going to be the same, right? Look at this beautiful lighting right here. It's coming off from the side, and I'm moving around, and the lighting is pretty much the same everywhere that I'm moving. So that's really nice. And here, Dad had a little bit of redness in his face, and there's also some bleeding in from in the camera. So I'm going to go down here to the color section, and I'm going to drop the color of red down, the saturation just a tad. And I'm going to brighten up that luminance just a little bit, like that. And that already removes some of the red here. So go down here to color, right underneath the section with tone curves. And the first one that comes up is red. And you can actually change the hue of the red. Look at that. Same. So you can make it a little bit more green. Or you can drop the saturation just a tad and add some luminance. And that helps with the red undertone. So I'm going to copy and paste all of those. And this looks all really good. Everybody's hugging and kissing and all that. Now, I'm going to teach you how I do my first dances. This is usually what I do for first dances with my brides and grooms, and I also did it with the father-daughter dance here. I have my light behind me, my off-camera light, and it's shooting towards them, so I'm creating a rim light. And also, there is enough bleeding from this light that it's lighting the front of my client here. So all I have to do, add a little bit of black or a little bit of contrast, because again, it's backlit, right? Add a little bit of brightness here, and look at how beautiful this looks. It's just something different to do, because, you know, the same lighting for everything doesn't look good. It adds a new dimensionality to it. And then I can be behind people, like people are watching them, which looks kind of cool. They're laughing. I'm at 1/25 to try to stop motion 5.0 ISO 2000 with my 50mm lens. And sometimes if I'm in the wrong spot or something, then I can just delete this image. Or if I happen to, like, the light shows off, I can delete this image, or I can add black and extra contrast and brighten it and see if I can save it. So I can do either of those things. See? Just going through, brightening up. And something like this, like, I don't have to save it. I'm just going to delete it and remove it. And I do like sometimes when I get that edge right there just a little bit. It's kind of cool. I'll add some blackness, add some contrast, brighten it up, and it kind of makes for a little bit of a different photo. But, of course, you always want to be safe too. So, just like that. Sync that. I brighten that up just a little bit. And all these are looking good. Again, you have to make that call. Do I want to save this? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe. I don't know. That might look really good in black and white. Let's try it. Create a virtual copy. And we're going to add a black and white to this. Down here in our filters. Let's see how it looks. I'm trying different black and whites to see if something looks good. Nope. And I can also save my highlights. Add some darkness. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to keep it. I don't know. It's too much maybe. So I'm going to remove it. Some of them are savable, some of them aren't. That actually looks pretty good and not as bad in color. I mean, but it's up to you whether you want to keep it or not. Some people like it, some people don't. It's your call. And I'm going to brighten this up. I liked it a little bit darker, but I am going to brighten it up. I think this one's a soft image, so I'm going to delete it. That one looks good. Brighten it up just a tad. And done with the dances. Again, that one didn't come out. That one might look good. Let's see. Exposure down. Contrast up. Blacks up. Highlight. That one might look good. Maybe not. Maybe. Keep it if you want. It's up to you. I love these really emotional photos. She's about to start crying. I think that's super sweet. Detail photos. He's really emotional. Come in really close. When there's an emotional photo, guys, try to come in really close to get that shot. Brings attention to the image. And I'm going to delete these. I press Control and clicked on both of those, and all of those are looking really nice. I forgot one of the details, so I went in and shot it later. Beautiful. Went in and shot the gifts when there was more gifts there, so shot that. Shot some details of the flowers. I'm syncing all of these guys. And now we're doing the slideshow. Those look good. I'm coming in really close. This is actually, I think I'm shooting completely naturally lit. So these shots where she's smiling, I love that. And I'm keeping the darkness in this image because it's about that, right? The lights are a little bit dim, and you know, she's watching the slideshow. Mom is watching the slideshow, and they're a little bit dimmer, right? I'm not shooting with flash. Then I went outside and did a sign shot, did kind of a shot of the outside just in case I need it. Shot some of the lady who was doing the painting. So I'm going to copy these, paste it. And now some group photos, people having fun. All of these look really nice. I don't think they need anything, possibly just a little bit of brightness, but probably not. Everybody having fun, dancing. I've got my off-camera flash pointed towards the ceiling on the right-hand side. If you have white on your ceiling, you can definitely do this whole pointing your off-camera flash. Everybody's dancing. All these photos look great. I don't think you need to brighten or darken anything. I think they look really good. Maybe just a little bit, but these are all looking good. Everybody's having fun. Everybody's dancing. The lady's almost done painting the painting. Isn't that beautiful? They're doing a hat dance, which I'd never seen before, which I thought was kind of cool. Girls are dancing. That's a little bit dark, so I'm going to brighten it up. Mom wants some photos of people hanging out. And that's the end of the day, guys. Look at that. Now they're doing the whole electric slide thing. I can brighten these up just a tad. They look pretty good. Just a tad. And dancing, dancing, dancing. Okay, guys, last section here. We are going to export these images high resolution for the client to download or for you to throw into a USB for your client. And how you export them is dependent on what you are going to give your clients. So I give them all super high resolution images. So I'm going to click on an image and I'm going to press Control A. That is going to select every image that we just Lightroomed, right? All the images. We're going to go to File, Export. Now I already have my saved export settings. So I do a setting called RCC, which I have already saved, and I'll show you what that is. I'm going to put it in a subfolder. I have it saved as, I have to choose what folder I want to put it in. So obviously I'm going to go in. I'm going to choose Valentina Quinceanera, and I'm going to click on there. I'm going to select that folder, and I'm going to put it in a subfolder called RCC. For me, that's rotated and color corrected, right? And I'm going to not do anything with the file name. I want my file names to stay the same. My file settings, I'm going to make the quality of the image 97. I've seen this, that you can do this a little bit lower. You don't want to go to 100%, guys, because it's just going to give you an inflated sized image that's just too big. So 97 is good. I've heard you can go down to 96 or 95 or even lower. But what you want to do is play with this number, export an image, and see if it's close to your original file. This is actually a little bit bigger than my original file. I'm not resizing them, although if you want to resize it to something like an 8x10, like they can't print anything larger than an 8x10, then you would go here and resize to fit and maybe do your width at 2300 or something pixels. My resolution here, I don't have it clicked, so we don't have to worry about that. If you don't have it clicked, then none of this matters. So just don't click on it. If you want to resize it, then you click on resize and you do 300 dots per inch at whatever you want to do it at. I don't have any sharpening here. I don't have any watermarking or anything, and I'm just going to export here just like that. Now, if you wanted medium resolution, then you can have something saved as medium resolution. If you already have all these settings and you want to save it, just click on add. Have all your settings done, click on add, and just name it. I named this RCC. My web ready that I saved, I put in a subfolder called web ready, and these are images that I would use for website images. I have that set at 96% quality at 100K. I resized the long edge to be at 1000 pixels, resolution 100, and I sharpened for screen. My medium resolution I have here. I put it in a subfolder called medium resolution. I have it at sized 3000 on the long side at 300 DPI. That's actually medium resolution for me. You can go to 2500. That would probably be medium resolution. And nothing else. I don't have any sharpening. I do a presentation for my clients that come in for like newborn photos, and I have it fit long edge to 2000 because of course I'm just presenting them. These are not the images I would give them. For my clients, I give them very high resolution images on packages that have high resolution images. So I've already went through that with you guys. So here again, I'm going to choose my folder. I'm going to go to Valentina, select the folder, and just export. And that's all you need to do. This is going to take a while. There's 1700 images. It'll give you the little indicator up here on the top left hand side that it's done exporting your images, and they will come up in this file folder. I'm going to show you guys your file folder. So here's my pictures. Here's the Valentina Quinceanera. These are my original folder. This is my Valentina Lightroom folder. So that's the Lightroom file. And these are my RCC folders. These are all the high-res images. Now, if you click on originals and you click on, let's say, the first photo of this bouquet right here, number 9, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to show you the properties on it. So this is a 5.50 megabyte file, pretty much straight from camera, and high res for my camera, which is a 5D Mark III at a JPEG file, 5.50. Now we're going to go to the RCC file, and I'm going to show you the first bouquet photo that we didn't delete, which was number 9. We're going to go to properties, right click, go to it's not going to let me. Go to properties, and it's an 8.31 megabyte file. Now, if I dropped my resolution a little bit, I could get this closer to a regular file, but 8.3, I'm happy to give people an 8.3 megabyte file. We added a lot of different information to this, so it's okay that it's a little bit of a big file, and your clients are going to want a high resolution file. So that's why I do 97%. I go high res. It adds a little bit more information, makes the file a little bit bigger for your client so they can make a bigger image from their file. And that's it, guys. This is all there is to Lightrooming. I hope you learned something new today, at least some basic Lightrooming, a little bit of posing and lighting here, not a lot, but I will go in and make extra Lightroom and Photoshop tutorials along with how to shoot. I will be making posing tutorials. If there's anything that you guys want to know, please let me know. I'm happy to make videos for you guys. And here you see it's barely starting the navigation. These Lightroom files are barely starting to get started. This is going to take a while, probably an hour. I don't know how long it'll take, but it takes a long time. But I just let it go. I don't do anything else on my computer. I take a break at this point. If there's anything that you guys want me to do for you, that you want me to make a video of, please let me know. Comment below. Comment no matter what. Do me a favor, please, and comment below. Like and subscribe. If you comment The algorithm of YouTube will show this more often if people want some Lightroom tutorials on basic Lightrooming. It's going to show you some tutorials on that. This is what I do. This is what I give my clients, guys. I've been doing this for 25 years, so I just wanted to kind of give you a glimpse into my world. And this is what I do. So anyways, guys, I'm signing off here. Remember to choose happiness in your life.